Okay, I think we're recording now. I'm going to just, yeah, sure. So Annie and I are here to look at a new investment opportunity in Penticton, BC, 180 McPherson Crescent. So this is the project right here, correct?
Yes.
And how many townhouses is it?
It's a 5 townhouses.
Right. So it looks kind of interesting. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 here, and then you've got this kind of weird place over here. Is that the fifth one over here?
The fifth one, and it's the owner of the whole building that lives in that unit.
Wow.
Number 100, and there's a garage.
Yeah, I see it.
On it. So yeah.
All right. This is really cool. And so tell me about, you know, let's assume for the moment that you bought it. Tell me about the state it's in now and what the highest and best use is, what animations you would apply to it if you did buy it.
Yes, so currently it's pretty in a bad condition. The tenants,
which, as you know, I like. The worse it is, the better I like it.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? You remember that Belleville property I bought?
Yeah, yeah.
$280,500 for an 11,000 square foot building in downtown Belleville for $24 a square foot, which you can't build a doghouse.
Yeah. Yeah, so this one is pretty much the same, but a bit more expensive.
Yeah, a bit more expensive, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But all the windows need replacement. Inside, everything needs to be remodeled because it's very, very not well taken care of.
When was it built?
1975.
I was going to say it looks like a 70s building.
Yeah, 75. So the roof has been replaced, but that's about it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm planning of redoing the whole 4 units because the owner in 100, so the left one, they want to stay, which is okay for now. So I would concentrate my energy on the 4 unit. It's 3-bedroom townhouses. I would do a full remodel, exterior paint, change the windows. And the cool thing about it is that they all have unfinished basement with exterior access.
Where is the exterior access? In the back?
In the backyard.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is really cool. So you've got 4 3-bedroom towns here. How many bathrooms?
2.
So you've got 2 full bathrooms in each one.
Yeah.
So you've got 3-bedroom townhouses, 2 bath with a basement. How big is each basement? Do you know?
It's about a little less than 556 square foot.
Perfect. So it's perfect for a little studio apartment.
Yeah, yeah.
With its own entrance.
Exactly.
And, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Penticton gets very much snow.
And not a lot.
So it's not like in Ottawa. If you have to go around the back of your building in Ottawa, you're going through like waist deep snow, right?
No,
nothing like that.
It doesn't happen here.
I hate you, by the way.
Yeah.
You know, the average temperature in Ottawa, the average year-round temperature in Ottawa, the average year-round is 4 degrees.
Oh, that's why I'm here, Bruce. I lived in
you're
Quebec.
killing me. You're killing me, Annie.
Yeah, I was in Quebec before.
Okay, so I like it. It's 3 bedrooms, and it's got each. Now, do you have the zoning that would allow you to put a micro suite or studio apartment in the basement?
Yes, I did do some research. The only thing that I'm waiting on is I have to fit 9 parking stall plus 4 visitor parking stall.
Yeah.
So I just have to make sure it all fits, but you don't see it very well. But on the left-hand side, on the back, there's a big corner, like a triangle, very big that can fit a lot of cars.
I gotta find it again, sorry.
Yeah.
So we can't really get in too close here. So Annie, here it is. So you're
Yeah.
saying that you could put the cars back in here?
Exactly. Yeah. The
Very nice.
visitor can go there. Yeah.
That's
And the suite.
Yeah.
The
So
suite
there's
is
enough room, if you will, to where this truck is, we could drive in here and park a bunch of cars over here.
exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that is fantastic.
And then on the right, there's a lane. I would put micro shed. Yes, there.
So you would put here, what would you put there?
Sheds.
Let's talk about that for a minute. Before we talk about that, I love the parking over here. Before we talk about that, you know what this front yard should be, in my opinion?
4 parking stall.
Could be some parking. But the other thing that I would put there is a playland.
Okay.
You know, like very simple stuff. Like, you know, I would put some, you know what bocce is?
No. I was thinking though to put it on the side of the house.
We'll talk about that. So we'll go here.
Okay, la pétanque. I know in French.
Hang on a second. Let me just get rid of the ad here.
Hello and welcome to How to Play Bocce Ball, presented by GatherTogetherGames.com.
C'est quoi en français?
This video will cover how to
Pétanque.
play the yard game. Any
Pétanque.
space can be used as the bocce playing field.
I didn't know the English name. Thank you, Bruce.
4 points. Points are scored by having your team's bocce balls closer to the jack than your opponent's bocce balls.
So everyone can play bocce. You could be 95 years of age. My mother-in-law's 95. She can play bocce. Now we let her go real close, you know, and she just sort of holds it there. And a 3-year-old, you can play with a 3-year-old. They could just go close, and you and me would be a little further back.
Yeah.
So I do think you could definitely do some additional parking here, but at least one of these segments, maybe the middle one or probably the middle one, I would turn it into some kind of a really cool playland. You know, the other game that I really like is pickleball, right? You remember pickleball?
Yeah.
And you know, everyone likes pickleball, again, for the same reason, Annie, that everybody can play it.
Yeah.
And do you know what cornhole is?
Yes.
You know, that's the big NFL tailgating thing where, I mean, it's a lot of fun. You know, I'll just look for some rather than YouTube video.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, everybody can play this game. Let's see, you know, it's just a beanbag toss game, right?
Yeah.
And again, you can play with every age group imaginable. You and I could play. We could play with 3 and 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds. They can stand almost over. My mother-in-law, 95, almost 96 now, she could play as well. So I know I keep coming back to some simple stuff like adding a playland, but what I would want to do is I would want to change the look of this so that maybe here, Annie, you would have an extra parking space or two. Maybe here you'd have an extra parking space, and you turn this into some really fun place. The whole neighborhood could come over and play bocce or cornhole or some other. You know, have you ever played outdoor ping pong?
Yeah.
I mean, you go to any campground.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, and it'll all fit there. You know, you get yourself an outdoor ping pong table, and you know, everybody, you know, here's one that you could build. I mean, you and your hubby could build these. We build them because we have a camp called Red Pine Camp. It's a family camp. We have outdoor ping pong, and we build them out of marine plywood. They don't cost very much, and everybody hangs out there, you know, have a beer, have a burger, etc. And if you were to do something like this, put an outdoor playland here, cornhole, bocce, and outdoor ping pong, that would be fine. And everybody would say, this is a fun place to live, whether you're, you know, a young person like yourself with some, I think 4 kids, is that right, Annie?
3.
3? Yeah, three beautiful kids, or a little bit older like me. You know, I sprained my ankle playing pickleball. So if you were to watch me walk across the room here, I would be limping like an old man, which I am. So I think you're right. Parking over here, maybe some additional parking here and here, maybe a playland here, and 4 studio apartments in the basement. What a fantastic plan. I really like it. Now let's talk about this. This gets you to the backyard, I think.
Yeah.
So I don't think I would put anything here. When I looked at this, you know, let's see if I can just scroll out a little bit and see if I get the isometric view. So here's the isometric view. I'm assuming that it's quite a big lot. Do you know, am I doing this right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So it
Well,
looks like it's fantastically deep. What is this back here?
there's a river there. It's
Wow.
a creek that goes downtown, but the lot is not very far on the backyard,
Okay.
up to there almost. Yeah.
So if you look at the other buildings here, you can sort of
Yeah.
see that they're probably, their backyard is about here.
Yeah.
So your backyard is probably about here.
Yeah, there's no trees in the backyard.
Oh, okay, so it's quite close.
Yeah.
And,
But then it's forest and it's a creek.
and who owns this property here?
It's city owned.
Can you do you have legal access to the creek?
I don't know about legal, but there is path.
Yeah, could you find out?
Yes.
All right, just to add it to your notes, because people will ask you that. Now let's go back. See if I can go back to the map. And so, what does this creek have a name?
It's yeah, you got it. Let me go find out.
And this body of water is called what? Okanagan Lake?
Yes, Okanagan Lake. Yeah.
So I mean, what I'd like you to find out, I mean, this kind of looks really interesting, Annie. Could you take a kayak and go down here, to this creek, to the Okanagan Lake?
That would be nice, but no, there is kind of a small, not a fall, but no, it's not.
It's called, listen, it shows here as Penticton Creek.
Yeah, that must be it. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So the question is, can you take a kayak from your building, or what could be your building, 180 McPherson, to Okanagan Lake? Are you saying there's rapids, or there's a waterfall?
There's you can't. There's rapid.
Well, you know, kayakers like rapids.
Yeah, but I don't think you're allowed. I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to kayak that creek.
Why would they?
But I can.
Who? I mean, I've never heard of rules saying no kayaking.
I'll find out, Bruce.
So Andy, you know, one of the things that when you're selling something, you know, to investors and to tenants, you want to, you know, create something that's kind of sexy, if you know what I mean, exciting.
Yeah.
And imagine if you could take your kayak to downtown.
I'll find
That
out.
would be pretty friggin' awesome.
Yes.
I mean, we're gonna measure this thing. Hang on. Let's see if I can remember how to measure. Yeah, measure. So here we'll go. We'll start here. Shoot. We'll start here, and I'm going to measure to here, here, here. Keep going. Here to.
I have about 3 kilometers to downtown.
So on the creek, from 180 McPherson, can you see on the screen here what I've done? I measured the distance along the creek, and I want you to record this. It's 2.46 kilometers to Okanagan Lake. If you could kayak that creek, that would be amazing. Now, the other thing to ask, are there walking paths? If you can't kayak, can you walk from
Yes,
this property
that-
along the creek to downtown.
yes, you
Imagine,
can.
sorry, go ahead.
There is a path, a walking path.
I'd like you to do it.
The path?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you've
yeah,
got some
I've done
homework
it.
to do. Like when I buy a property, Annie, I know everything about that property. Or maybe I don't know everything, but I try to.
Yeah.
And when you walk it, take a bunch of pictures. Have you got a decent camera on your phone?
Yeah.
So can you imagine if you walk down here? I mean, you know, you're in good shape. 2.5 kilometers is nothing. See if you can walk that path. Take pictures of the creek, take pictures of the scenery. Imagine painting the picture. We're trying to paint a picture. And if you're a future tenant, you know, maybe you could jog along that pathway. You could walk along that pathway. But Annie, because you're a single, I mean, because you're a woman, you have to have somebody go with you.
It's very safe.
Annie, somebody has to
Yeah.
go with you. I mean that.
Okay.
No, I mean that. You should take your nice husband with you. It's just that in Ottawa, we've had some pretty serious things happen on our walking paths. Now, Ottawa's a lot bigger than Penticton, you know, about 1.3 million. So there you go. I apologize, but my wife's calling me, and it might have something to do with my mother-in-law. I apologize.
Yeah.
Hi, Dawn. Yes, I am. I'm just, because I saw your name come up, I thought I'd take it. Is everything okay? Is Mom okay? All right, I'll call you back. Oh, she was just, my mother-in-law's 95, and she had to go to the doctor today. I just had to check that. I apologize.
Of course, of course.
So I don't want you to do anything, you know, that's dangerous. So just be careful, that's all. All right, so we've talked about parking, maybe some front yard parking. We've talked about playland. We've talked about this amazing bush and trails and maybe even kayaking as a possibility. We've talked about animating the micro suites. We're gonna come back to the alley over here. What is the long-term plan for this?
The owner, actually, it's only the 4 units that's for sale, and their unit is not for sale yet.
So how would you get access?
The realtor told me that they would be for the backyard. Oh,
Sorry.
hello.
Sorry, you're breaking
Oh,
up,
okay.
Annie. So how would you get access to that extra parking if you don't own the house?
Well, there's a lane that belongs to the strata for the access on the parking lot that I'm planning. It's part of the whole strata.
Okay, and can you put in, if you put in an offer on this property, can you put in that the seller agrees to give you a first option to buy that house when and if they sell it?
Yes.
Do you
I
know?
would.
Do you know the difference between a first option and a right of refusal?
No, not technically.
Okay, so the owner will not want to give you a right of first refusal. And the reason for that is a right of first refusal means, let's say the owners decide to sell this house 5 years from now, and they put it up for sale for $600,000. I'm just making up the numbers. And they get an offer for $600,000. Under an offer of first refusal, they have to come to you and say, Annie, we got an offer for $600,000. You have the right to match. So you can then trump the offer and you own it. Do you understand?
Yeah.
That's a right of first refusal. The reason they don't want to give you that is it's very hard to sell any house, or for that matter, any property with a right of first refusal. Because let's say I was the buyer. I come along and in good faith, I put in an offer on this house for $600,000. And then the seller says, oh yeah, but Annie has a right of first refusal. So you can't really buy it until we talk to her. And she can always, you know, scoop it out from underneath you. And I would go, well, in that case, I'm not putting in an offer. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
A first option is different. a first option, most sellers will agree to that, and they would do it anyway, that if they decide to sell, they have to name a price, and then they have to submit it to you. And then you have a period of time in which you could say, yeah, I'll buy it for 600,000 or whatever the number is, or I won't. And you have maybe, 48 hours or 72 hours, something like that, to say, yes, I'll do it, or no, I won't. After that, they can just sell it to whomever. But they would do that anyway. But at least it gives you the heads up that they don't sell it privately and you never see it. And the next thing you know, you can't buy it. So it at least gives you a window of opportunity. A first option does not handicap a seller in any way, because let's say I owned that house and you have bought 4 beautiful townhouses from me 5 years ago. Obviously, the first thing I'm going to do is say, Annie, I'm going to put my house up for sale for 600,000. Do you want it?
Yeah.
So it just confirms that they formally are going to do that in writing. It doesn't handicap the property, it doesn't handicap the sale process, but it absolutely guarantees that you will at least have a 48 or 72 hour window to add to that house.
Okay.
All right, so let's go back to sharing now. All right, so how big is the backyard? How deep is it?
It must be about 12 feet deep.
So
Maybe
that's
20 feet deep.
So can you find out exactly what the dimension is there?
Yeah.
Because I would be concerned.
I just a second, I'll tell you. It's
You have
7.23 meters.
So that's about 23 feet.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So as you know, one of the things that I really like, let me see if I can find it, is I really love the workshop model, right? So more and more people would like to have a backyard storage shed, but they'd also like to have a backyard storage shed that doubles as a workshop.
Yeah.
So maybe you could have in the back, not just like a storage shed, but something that might only be 12 feet deep, but might be, 20 feet wide, which wouldn't be that big, where somebody could have, some storage, but also could use it as a workshop. Because people today really, really are going gangbusters on this gigpreneur thing, on this, on having some kind of side hustle.
Yeah.
So what I'd like you to do is, here's one of the ones we just leased. A client of mine in Kitchener-Waterloo, he just leased another workshop to this young woman here. Her name is Selena. She makes really, really funky clothing. And she's been doing it out of her apartment, and now she needs a workshop. And so, whether it's Selena, or I leased one to a lathe operator, I leased another one to a custom furniture operator, I leased another one to a boat builder. So having some kind of a backyard workshop, even if it's just something this size, is not the worst thing that you could do.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll get real money for this. And as I've told you many times, the apartment, the studio apartment, the townhouse is a liability because it costs you money, and the workshop is a solution or an asset because it helps you make money, right?
Yeah.
All right, so see if you can maybe put some small workshops. Here's one I just finished last week. This is a workshop. It's about 800 square feet, not quite, I think about 750 square feet. And I put an overhead door in here. It's got a nice little fireplace with a blower on it. And even before I finished it, I rented it to a boat builder. And here's what I did. So it's 714 square feet. And the boat builder rented it for $915 a month plus $115 for his tech package. And he pays, plus on top of that, he pays a share of the power. So that's pretty good additional rent.
Yeah.
All right. So
yeah.
I think another possible animation for you. So I would keep this laneway open, because this is how, if I had a shop in the backyard and I was loading or unloading from it, I would come in this way.
Yeah.
And you could put maybe 1 or 2 workshops in the backyard and rent them out. The workshops that I'm building are anywhere from, very small, like 300 square feet to about 800 square feet. So in the backyard here, because it's a small backyard, your workshops might be 12 by 20, so they might be like 250 square feet. Nevertheless, you can do a lot of work in a 250 square foot storage/workshop. You can do a lot. And they don't cost very much. But the last one I built in a backyard was for a yoga studio. And it's about 700 square feet. So it's a fairly big one. We did that one for $65,000. All right. And that one we do really well on in terms of rent.
Yeah.
So I do think that your animation ideas are very strong and I like them. All right. So let's now go and share the other screen and we can go through your numbers now. So, so it's been on the market for about 2 months.
Yeah.
Is Mr. Federley any good as a mortgage broker?
Yes.
Right.
Well, he helped me a lot. Yeah.
And what loan to value can he get you on this building? Can he get you 80%?
He's suggesting 70%.
Okay. Now, it's a 5-plex, but you're only buying 4 of the units.
Yeah, but the owner of the unit number 100 is willing to sell, but would like to stay. So I'm thinking maybe I can buy the 5-plex and have them stay as a renter. Okay.
All right. So what would your offer price be on the 4 + 1 on the 5?
Yeah, I would offer 1.125 million, but for the 5-plex.
Okay.
Because it needs a lot of renovation.
Let me go back to, so let me go back to the question I asked. Since you might buy the 5th unit, the big one, 100, what is the long-term animation plan for the house?
For the moment, they want to stay, but I don't know how long. I haven't talked with them yet.
I said the long-term plan. So after they move out, whether it's 3 years or 5 years, after they move out, what would you do with the house?
I haven't visited it yet, Bruce.
So you need to have an animation strategy for that too.
Yeah.
Okay. And you need to be thinking of what kind of rent. I mean, I would be perfectly happy if the owners want to stay for 3 to 5 years. You come up with a rent for the house and they agree to it, and you come up with a purchase price and they agree to it, and you agree to it, because you're going to have your work cut out for you just renovating the 4 units.
Yes.
So I'd be perfectly happy if they stayed 3 years or 5 years, but not 10.
Mm-hmm.
10 is too long, even for a young person like you, Annie. Can you hear me, Annie?
Yes, I can. Sorry, I'm freezing, but I can hear you.
Okay, good. All right. So did you write down a couple more questions?
Yes.
All right. You need to have an animation strategy 3 years from now or 5 years from now for the house. You need to have a rent in mind for the house for 3 to 5 years, and just move on from there. How come their net operating income is so pathetic at $39,000?
Because it's been renting same person for years, and it's a very low income place, very low. It's very shabby, Bruce. It's very not nice.
Can you get vacant possession?
I can give a 4 months notice only if I do major renovation.
Well, you're planning to do major renovations, right?
Yes, so that's the only way I can get rid of the tenant is with a major renovation, and they have to have 4 months notice.
Could you put that in your offer so that you don't close until you get vacant possession?
Oh, that would be nice.
So what I've done in the past is I've talked to the seller and I said, look, I'll give you your price, whatever it is, but you are going to give the notice on our behalf that these are going through major renovation, and we're going to close 1 week or 2 weeks after vacant possession is achieved. Because one of the concerns I have is sometimes it takes even longer to get rid of people. And the thing that kills the internal rate of return on a project like this is delay.
Yes.
And if you've got vacant possession on the day of closing, and you use that 4 months to finish your plans, to submit them to the city, to get the building permits approved, so you would want to put in your offer that they provide notice of major renovation. They provide the 4 months. And also in your agreement of purchase and sale, they have to appoint you as their agent so that you have the right to file for a building permit during this 4-month period. Because if they don't appoint you as the agent, when you go to the city of or the town of Penticton or the city of Penticton, they'll say, who the hell are you?
Mm-hmm.
Right? They won't pay any attention to you. But if you have it in your agreement of purchase and sale that they've appointed you as their agent, for your due diligence, but also for design, for consultation, for submission of building permits, for acquisition of building permits, then you have the absolute right. It's called, in legal terms, it's called you become the owner under agreement of purchase and sale.
Okay.
But that has to be in the agreement of purchase and sale.
Yeah. Okay. So how do I word it in my purchase agreement?
Well, that's why you have a realtor.
So upon,
If your
yeah,
realtor
but
doesn't know how to word something like that, you fire him or her. You get another
okay.
realtor.
Okay.
I know how to word it, but I'm not acting as a realtor here. I'm just your coach, Andy. But I'd be happy to review it. But if your realtor, literally, if your realtor does not know how to word stuff like this, then you need another realtor. You've got to have somebody on your team. You've got to have a really good real estate lawyer. You've got to have a really good commercial and investment realtor who knows what he or she is doing. And I'll help you with that. But I'm not going to write it. I'll just review it. Okay?
Yeah. Right.
All right.
Got it.
All right. Okay. What is the going cap rate now? Do you know what the investment cap rate is for your area, Penticton?
Well, the current cap rate with the current NOI, I calculated with the selling price, and it's 3.5%.
Right. That's not the question I'm asking. What is the fair market value cap rate for investment property in Penticton?
I don't know, Bruce.
So you remember when you were on the call with me when I did the presentation for Belleville? Remember that?
Yeah.
And I checked with CBRE. Do you know who CBRE is?
No.
Okay. So CBRE is one of the largest commercial brokerages in Canada. And the fair market value cap rate is different in Toronto than it is in Montreal. It's different in Montreal than it is in Ottawa. It's different in Belleville. It's different in Penticton. So you need a realtor who can tell you what the fair market value cap rate is for Penticton, for investment property like this.
Yeah.
And the reason that's so important is your going in cap rate at 3.5% is terrible. We know that.
Yeah.
And your targeted cap rate at 7.6% is decent. Okay. So do you remember how to calculate what the fair market value of these 4 buildings will be after you have completed the renovations and after you have put tenants in place? Do you remember how to do that?
That was my question, Bruce. I couldn't remember how to do the reverse calculation.
All right, so you have a net operating income targeted of $121,000 a year.
Yeah.
Okay? Let's assume that the investment fair market value cap rate in Penticton is the same as Belleville. I don't know that you have to check that.
Yeah.
And don't forget, we're recording this session, so if you need to play it back, like Annie, I'm trying to teach you how to be a top real estate investor, right?
Thank you.
You can't be lazy. You got to do all the work. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. So let's assume it's 5.5%. So you take the $121,306. Have you got your calculator there?
Yeah.
And divide that by 0.055.
It's 2,205,563.
How much was it?
2,205,563.
Okay. So you and I think these 4 buildings will be worth 2.2 million approximately after it's finished. What is your total cost? If you buy it for 1.125 million and you put in 700,000 of renovations, you've gone from about 1.8 million to about 2.2.
Yeah.
But the 1.125 million to purchase includes all 5 units. So your finished value is 2.2 million plus whatever the existing value is of the house. What is the existing value of the house in your opinion?
It's 220.
All right. So your finished value is probably about 2.5 million, just to be generous, okay?
Yeah.
And your cost is going to be about 1.8 million. So you're going to have a bit of a bump of about $700,000 when you finish, maybe 600,000.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not a home run, but it's decent. Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's decent. It's not, but it's not a home run. You're clear on that, right?
Yeah. It's not the best higher.
It's not. It's the other property that I thought was better, but it doesn't matter. This is a good property. Now, let's assume that you build 2 workshops in the backyard, right, at $50,000 each. So we're going to add another $100,000, okay, of cost. So now instead of being 1.8 million, we're at 1.9 million. But let's say we can rent each of those workshops. I'm just making up the numbers for, say, $625 a month each. All right. So it means we have 2 little workshops storage in the backyard. We're getting $625 times 2 times 12 means we're getting another $15,000 of income from those. And then you take a little bit of money off for operating expenses and property taxes, et cetera. So maybe we've got another, say, I would guess probably 70% of that. So I'm guessing that you'd have net operating income about $10,500, maybe a little bit higher, and a cost of, $100,000. So you're going to move your cap rate up a little bit. So instead of being a 7.6% cap rate, it'll probably come out to closer to 8%. So these little animations will help you.
Yeah.
All right. I really like the program you put together. Tenants moving out March 30th, 2021. So I think you're looking at a closing date. Right now, you're looking at where in September. So we'll assume that this month is used up just negotiating the damn thing. October, November, December, January. You're probably looking at a closing date and a construction start about middle of February.
Yeah, that would be ideal. So I could propose the owner to take possession only when the vacancy is on.
Right.
That would be, so I wouldn't lose money with those 4 months.
That would be really bad.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's good. I think with the deposit with the offer, I would probably go with a smaller deposit of $5,000 instead of 10. And the reason for that is, I'm sure that I'm not 100% clear on BC law, but I suspect it's the same as Ontario. Once you put a deposit into the trust account of a realtor, it cannot come out unless both parties agree. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand. So it can be lost
So,
for
well, not
a long
lost,
time.
but it happened to a client of mine. A woman put in an offer in Toronto on a beautiful townhouse, I might say, but she did it. I was coaching her, but she did it without talking to her coach. And she put a $25,000 deposit down. Then during her due diligence, she found out that there were some structural issues with the building. It's an old townhouse, I think, built in the early 1920s. And it was going to cost her an extra $150,000 to fix it. And the sellers were not willing to give her a price abatement. So she said, well, I'm not waiving my conditions, I'm sorry. And the sellers, and two gay guys, not that it makes any difference, but two gay guys, they got really mad at her and said, well, you're just trying to weasel out of the deal. She said, no, I got a structural engineering report here. It's going to cost me an extra $150,000 that I didn't have in my budget. So no. And they refused to sign the mutual release and the termination. And then she calls me up and she's upset. She said, I can't get my $25,000 back. I said, you should have called me before you made the offer. I would have told you a $5,000 deposit. So if it takes a year or two to get $5,000 back, it's not the worst thing that ever happened. It's not good, but it's not the worst thing. But at least it's not taking you, years. And the other thing is that the sellers know that the only way for you to get the deposit back if they don't agree is for you to sue them. Now, for you to sue for $10,000, you're going to hire a lawyer. You probably spend $10,000 to get your $10,000 back. So maybe you should make that $5,000.
Can I ask, the deposit here, it's deposited, it's given only when all conditions are removed?
No, the deposit goes with the offer.
Oh, so it's different. Here we give the deposit only if the conditions are removed.
Well, that's great. Then that's fine. But I would still reduce it to $5,000.
Okay.
You never ever know what can go wrong.
Yes.
But by the way, if that is BC law, they're smarter than we are.
Okay, but that's how it goes here.
But even in this case, and just so you know, even if it goes after a waiver of condition, let's say that your lawyer examines the title. And when he or she examines the title, she discovers or he discovers that there are work orders against this building. Let's say they discover, tax liens against this property. Let's say they discover serious title issues against this property, things that you cannot discover until your lawyer does her or his title insurance. Now you can't close. And again, your deposit gets stuck.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And the seller says, oh, those work orders, don't worry about the manning. Those open building permits, don't worry about the manning. That zoning change, don't worry about it, Andy. They always say that. Really?
Yeah. Okay.
Well, yeah, we have to worry about it. We're not closing. I'm not going to spend $1.125 million to find out I can't put those micro suites in. Or one of my clients discovered on a property a tax lien from the federal government of $1.2 million. Was a federal government, Canada Revenue Agency tax lien registered on title that had to be paid. And the seller had no money, and he had an agreement, a binding agreement of purchase and sale. That thing went to litigation. So a very small deposit, I think, is probably prudent. If I could, Andy, I would put down a $2 deposit. I would just give them a toonie, but no, but they won't accept that. Okay.
I don't think so.
They will not accept that. I just wanted to show you this. So this is CBRE, okay? So your realtor should get in touch with CBRE in British Columbia or somebody like CBRE to find out what the cap rates are for your area in Penticton. Don't guess at that.
Okay.
Because in Belleville, it's 5.5%, but in Toronto, it's 3.5%. So imagine if Penticton was 3.5%, it means that you'll double your money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
so,
if if your realtor isn't sure how to get the fair market value cap rate, he or she can call a local appraiser.
Yeah.
Okay, if you have a decent appraiser for investment property in Penticton, I don't know if you do, but if you do, he or she will definitely know the fair market value cap rate because they need it for their appraisals, right?
Yeah.
So Annie, there are three main ways to value property, okay? The first is by comparables, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a little bungalow in Penticton and 3 other bungalows have sold in the last few months that are almost identical, you just use comparables. The second way is if you're going to build something is the cost to complete less depreciation, right? So what would it cost to build these 4 townhouses? Less the depreciation. So that's another way to value these 4 townhouses. Could be done on comparables. It could be done on cost to complete less depreciation. But the most relevant number for investment property is not the first method or the second, it's the third one. And the third method is what you and I did. What is the net operating income going to be after renovation? What is the total cost, right? That's your targeted cap rate. But if the fair market value cap rate is less than the targeted cap rate, then you know that your building's going to be worth quite a bit more than your cost. And that's what we're trying to do. So it's the third method that's really important. And some appraisers don't know how to do anything other than comparables. You understand?
Yeah.
And some realtors don't know anything other than comparables. For you, that's not good enough.
Yeah.
Your appraiser, your realtor has to understand all 3 types of appraisal. Comparables, cost to complete less depreciation, and on an income basis.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now we're experts, right?
So I'm going to change my realtor and I'm going to find an appraiser.
Well, I have an appraiser in Ottawa. His name is John Kumba, who's absolutely brilliant. And if I have a problem, I can call him or email him and he will tell me an answer. And like, he is like the Bible of appraisers. So once you have a good appraiser like that, you give him a bottle of wine every Christmas.
Yeah.
I never forget John. I always, I don't send him a lot, but I'll send him a couple of bottles of wine at Christmas or just a thank you, because he's a good appraiser, is worth his or her weight in gold. I mean, because if you get a bad appraisal, that's really bad.
Yeah.
Okay. So, so now we understand the deal. How much equity do you need to raise?
Well, let me take my notes here. I was thinking, I don't know if it would make sense, and you can maybe tell me here, but I need 1.855 million.
Plus another $100,000 for workshops and playland.
Yes, so I'll add 100 on my renovation.
Yeah, playland isn't going to cost you very much. A ping pong table you could build for, materials probably $200. Your bocce court, nothing, not very much, and your cornhole. I have a bunch of cornhole sets, so I put them out in my apartments. Yeah. So so not very much. But anyway, so you need about 1.9 million.
Yes.
So how much can you finance with a mortgage and construction mortgage, and how much is equity?
Well, my thinking was ask the seller a financing of 30%, and then a bank or type B lender for the remaining 70%, and then ask a private investor for the renovation cost of 800,000.
Okay.
And then the closing cost would be from Sitka, my company.
Okay. And so have you got anybody in mind who wants to put $800,000 into this project?
Well, I have a couple of investor in mind, but before reaching out to them, I wanted to see with you if it's a good deal worth pursuing.
So I like it. I do. You know, it's a lot of work, but it will be a nice project. Like I said, it's not a home run. It's kind of like a single or a double.
Yeah.
You know, the baseball analogy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So home run would be great. It's not that, but it's at least a single, if not a double. So there's nothing wrong with it. So let's assume for the moment you get a seller take-back mortgage for 30%.
Yeah.
I would ask for 3 years at 3.5%.
Yeah.
Interest only.
Yeah.
Paid monthly in arrears.
Pay monthly.
In arrears.
What is that?
It means that you pay at the end of the month instead of the beginning of the month.
Ah, okay.
It just helps you a little bit. And it's postponed to a first mortgage of 70%.
Yeah.
But I would put in that he also agrees, the seller also agrees to postpone to an additional $500,000 of construction financing. So your first mortgage, Annie, if you bought this property, we'll just do the numbers approximately. If you bought the property for $1.125 million, your first mortgage at 70% is $787,500.
Yeah.
Your second mortgage from the seller is $337,500.
Yeah.
However, you're going to increase your first mortgage by $500,000, and that $500,000 is for construction. So the second mortgage of $337,500 is postponed to actually over $1.2 million. Do you understand?
Well, the seller financing, would it be the second mortgage?
Yes, yes, absolutely. It has to be second place. No bank, even a B lender, no B lender, no construction lender will go behind in second place. None.
Yeah, yeah.
So if he wants to sell this property to you, he has to agree to be in second place. If he says, no, I got to be in first place, you say, fine, keep your freaking townhouses.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, to reduce the amount of equity you need, it would be great if you could arrange a construction loan, which takes out the first mortgage and also provides you with $500,000 to do some renovations.
So the 500 construction.
That's part of a new. It's part of a new first mortgage. So you're going to put a 70% mortgage in place.
Yeah.
And a 30% second mortgage.
Yeah.
And Sitka's going to pay the closing costs.
Yeah.
Then in February, you're going to have to put another first mortgage in place, and it might be the same one, which is, it has the $700,000 and change that you need to close the deal, plus another $500,000, which they'll give you as advances or draws. Do you know what a draw is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you construct these micro suites and you renovate these things, they'll give you, again, the appraiser will go in and say, yep, she's done $100,000 of construction financing, and we're going to give you $70,000 of that. It means that you need from your investor about $300,000 instead of $800,000. Which
is easier to raise.
Much easier. This is exactly what I'm doing in Belleville.
Yeah.
So the $300,000, you only need that money when you're renovating.
Yes.
Right. So let's say you and your husband have done $100,000 worth of work this month. Say in March, you've done $100,000 worth of work. The appraiser comes in and says, Annie has done $100,000 worth of work. Gives the thumbs up. It goes to the construction lender. They give you, say, 70% of that. So they give you $70,000 check. You need to come up with the other $30,000. But that's the $30,000 that's coming from your investor. So the nice thing from the investor's point of view is he or she doesn't have to give you the $300,000 up front. They can give it to you as and when you need it. It's like a line of credit from them.
Yeah.
And what I would do is I would say to and it could be 2 investors, could be 3, it could be 5 investors. It's not going to be 50.
Yeah.
But it could be 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 investors, 6 maybe. So you could have 6 investors at $50,000 each. And what they would do is they would lend you that money at 8%.
Yeah.
And you would capitalize the interest, because I don't want you to have to pay interest on that. Otherwise you'll go broke. You capitalize, and again, it's a loan to the project of $300,000 from your investors for 3 years at 8% capitalized. Exactly what I did with Belleville. And that mortgage is in 3rd place. That's a 3rd mortgage.
Okay. So it is a mortgage. It
Oh, yeah,
is
it's a mortgage.
classified as a mortgage.
Yeah, they just register a 3rd mortgage on title.
Yeah.
And now the question is, are you going to give your investors any equity? You don't have to give them any equity. You can just say, look, I'll give you 8% on your money, but they'll probably want some equity too. What are you thinking of in your mind in terms of equity? It's entirely up to you.
I was thinking only the interest. If the interest is higher at 8%, I wasn't thinking equity in the building.
So they're just lenders then.
Yes. They
Okay,
would
well
be.
then you would offer them 12%.
Okay, so if no equity,
Yeah,
with
if it's no equity, I would say, look, I'll give you 12% on your money for 3 years.
Can I afford that?
Well, it's capitalized, so you don't have to pay it until the end.
So I pay only after the 30 years.
So what I'm saying is that your first mortgage has to have a term of 3 years.
Yes.
Your second mortgage, which is from your seller, has to have a term of 3 years. And
Yes.
from your quote unquote investors has to have a term of 3 years. Because my hope is that the value of the property has gone up like this.
Yeah.
And so after 3 years, you refinance and you pay out your first, your second, and your third. They're gone.
Yeah.
So, and you've got 3 years to do it. Hopefully you can do it in 1 or 2 years. But if you need the extra year, you can take it.
Yeah.
All right. And what you might do is you might ask the seller to also capitalize his interest. Instead of paying it monthly, you might say, look, I just want you to capitalize it for 3 years.
Okay.
So that all the interest, except for the first mortgage, you got to pay the first mortgage. They're never going to agree to capitalize the interest, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
But you might ask the seller to help you, and you certainly would ask your investors. But your investors are really lenders. At 12%, they're just lenders.
Yeah. So if they go 8%,
well, if
then
they
I
go
would give
8%, what I would do is, if they go 8% for 3 years instead of 12, I would give them 15% ownership in the building.
15%.
Yeah, it's like a 4% difference times 3 years, but it's only on their money. So, give them 10 or 15% ownership if they ask for it.
Okay.
But not more than 15%.
Okay. Does it make it more complex for me to have a partner like owning equity on the building?
Absolutely, it makes it much more complicated. Definitely. Like the Belleville thing, the plan is that I'll be doing it with maybe 2 or 3 or 4 others, not 10, but, it might be me and three others, or me and 4 others. And what we're going to do as a group is we're going to do 4 of these projects, and everybody will end up owning 1.
Yeah.
But for you, that's a little bit different. So it would be better if they didn't own any of it. But if they insist on it and you can't make the deal work without them, then you give them 10 or 15% ownership.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's very exciting, a lot of work, but the good news about this particular project is if you do it and when it's successful, you will know a lot about real estate investing.
It would be my school.
Well, your school is with me, but it certainly would be, it's like we're in the classroom and this is your your lab, your laboratory work.
Yeah. Do you think, Bruce, that it's too big of a construction or too big of a project for my first which construction work, it's not complex because
No,
we've managed
yeah.
we've managed a lot of construction, so that doesn't scare me. But is it too much or too risky, or I just go with it and go and run and make it work?
Well, I think that if you can reduce the investor requirement to 300,000 instead of 800,000, and you know, I think the key is if you have a couple of people who say, "Look, Annie, I'll back you with 300 grand," then I probably would try it. But the key thing to me is that 300,000. You know, that you can get access to $300 in cash, no hassle, no fuss, no muss. That gives you some comfort, because the first mortgage of 70%, Mr. Federally, I'm sure can do that. The second mortgage, well, that'll just be from the seller. So the really key thing here, Annie, would be to do a slide deck. You know, you saw my slide deck for Belleville.
Yeah.
It was very simple. And I think you have a copy of, you know, the recording, the replay. So if you have to look at it again, you can. Did I give you a copy of that slide deck?
I think I have. I'm pretty sure I have it.
I think I did. And so you can see how I did it. It's not complicated. So I would do a slide deck, and I would set up a time to talk to your, do you have 2 investors in mind?
Yes.
Yeah, I would talk to them just like you and I are doing. And if you'd like my help with it, I'd be happy to, you know, jump in on Zoom as well when you're ready to go. But once they, you know, if they say, look, this is a terrible idea, there's no way I would get involved in it, then I think, you know, we'd have to, you know, maybe not do this project, we'd do something smaller.
Yeah.
But if they say, oh, this is awesome, yeah, I'll do that. But I do think they're probably going to want, for their $300,000 of key cash, they're probably going to want 10 or 15% ownership.
Yeah. Can I buy them when I refinance in 3 years? Can I buy their share?
You can't do that. It's not fair to the investor.
Oh, okay.
You understand? Like, it's like saying, here's a piece of cheese, Bruce, and then I go to get it and jerk it away. Didn't you do that when you were a kid, you know?
Yeah.
With a little kid, hey, would you like to play, you know, with me? Here's a nice toy. And that kid comes up to get the toy and you jerk it away.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
that's what you're doing, right? Because they want to be treated as if they are truly partners. You know, you're going to treat your partners or your investors at least as well as you treat yourself, if not better.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're second class and you're first class. They're kind of first class and you're second class in a way.
Yeah, because they make it work.
Yeah, they, you know, you can't really, but if you have 2 investors who say, look, count on us, we'll back you with $300,000, me and Bill here, we'll back you with 300 grand. We like it. We'd like to own 15% of this, you know, and get our money back. And from their point of view, they're going to own 15% of a really great project for basically no money. Once their mortgage is retired, you know, or you could do what I did with Belleville for their 15%. How much are your closing costs?
30 grand.
30,000. So if they wanted, so if that's your equity, if they wanted 15%, they should give you $4,500. That's their equity, right? So think about it from their point of view. In 3 years, once their $300,000 has been repaid, they own 15% of a great project for $4,500.
Yeah.
So it's a hell of a deal for them. And then one day maybe you sell it, or one day they want to exit. You just simply ask the appraiser, what's it worth? And he says it's worth $2 million. You've got $1.5 million mortgage on it. So the equity is 500,000, 15% of 500,000, 75,000 bucks. Their adjusted cost base is say 4,500. They made lots of money on their measly little tiny bit of equity. And they say, yeah, give me 75,000, I'll exit. But you leave it for later. You don't do that now.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Okay, is that helpful?
Yes. And then my last question, Bruce, the 500,000 construction loan.
Yep.
Is that hard to get?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You have to talk to your mortgage broker, you know, before you talk to your investors.
Yeah.
And make sure that he can get you the 700,000 that you need to close it, and that mortgage can be bumped up by another $500,000 as you renovate. That's really important. That's called a construction loan, and they're expensive,
Okay.
but you need that. And it's
Yeah.
all part of the first mortgage. It can't be no lender and no construction lender will be in second position. So you're going to need 1.2, 1.3 million in first mortgage money, and in construction loan, you're going to need about 300 and change from your seller and another 300,000 from your investors. That's how you do it. And I'm doing that too. You know, even though I'm a lot older than you, Annie, because of the bankruptcy of the Senators, you know, you have to think of me as if I'm 35 or 40 years of age, because I mean, the stuff that I'm doing now is what I did when I was 35 or 40, right? You know, it's very entrepreneurial. And you know, if the Senators hadn't gone bankrupt, you know, doing projects like Belleville back then, I would just do it on my own. I didn't need any help from anybody. So the objective for you and me is to get you to the point where you don't need any partners. But in this case, you do.
Yeah.
And so do I. You know, I'm not embarrassed to say it. I mean, it is what it is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if my life had gone down a different path, you and I would be talking. I'd be worth about $500 million to $1 billion today.
Yes.
Instead of worth let's see, I can afford another phone maybe.
Yeah.
Right?
I would be with you though, so I appreciate being with
but
you.
the objective of the coaching that I do is to help people like you, you know, become really successful. And so within a few years, probably 5 to 6 years, you can just do these projects on your own. You'll just be writing the checks. Like in Belleville, if I can really get this building to be worth $3.5 or $4 million, me and the group will make $1 million or $1.5 million on it. Half of that will come to me. That's a significant change in my circumstances, right? So, you know, that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
You know, make $500,000 for yourself and your family. Once you've made your first $500,000, you can go out and do it again. And then you do it again. And then once you've done it 4 or 5 times, you're just writing the checks yourself. You don't need any help from anybody. And so my objective in the coaching is to, and not just for you, but for the thousands now of people I'm coaching, directly and indirectly, is to get you to that point. And it's very doable. I've done it once in my life, and now I'm doing it a second time. Only the good news for you is you're only ever going to have to do it once, because you're not going to buy a National Hockey League team.
No.
That's
I went bankrupt though, Bruce, and I went sailing. So I'm starting again.
I wasn't going to mention that, but that's a one-time thing. That's never happening again, Annie.
No.
All right.
All right.
No.
Thank you so much.
I'll put this on YouTube, and we'll talk to you real soon. I want to hear back from you. And if you need my help to pitch the investors, let me know.
Yeah. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.
Good day.
Yeah, you too.